My name is Elizabeth Loha Homer. I am a member of the Osage Nation of Oklahoma and a practicing attorney who once served as a special attorney at the Criminal Division of the Department of Justice, the Office of American Indian Trust at the Interior Department, and finally as the Vice Chair of the National Gaming Commission. For nearly a decade now, I have served tribal clients in the gaming law arena with a particular focus on gaming regulatory matters. My clients include tribal councils, tribal regulatory agencies, tribal gaming enterprises, and tribal organizations such as the National Gaming Association. Although I draw heavily on this experience in my testimony today, the views I express today are my own and are not attributable to anybody else. In much of Indian country, though not all, the advent of gaming has meant the difference between a future of seemingly hopeless poverty, depression and despair, and a future of growth, hope, and opportunity. Tribal gaming revenues have translated into increased tribal governmental capacity, new and expanded tribal governmental services, and an enhanced quality of life in many parts of Indian country. This committee deserves credit for making this change possible. But I would add that where the success truly lies is in the responsible manner in which tribal governments have undertaken their gaming activities and the wise choices and investments that they have made. Today, we stand at a crossroads. The technological revolution, the advent of the internet, and broad public access to the information highway compel us to consider the future of tribal gaming. As the committee deliberates the ramifications of internet gaming and considers legislation related to it, please bear in mind that while the means may be new, may be novel, the internet, the legal, regulatory, and policy issues underlying internet gaming are quite familiar. We've been dealing with those same issues for a very long time now. In NIGA, Congress established a unique system of shared regulatory responsibilities among the federal government, the states, and tribal governments. To carry out the tribal interest, tribal governments have established tribal gaming regulatory agencies. To carry out the federal interest, Congress created the National Indian Gaming Commission. Together, the NIGC and tribal gaming regulatory agencies provide a two-tiered framework for the regulation of tribal gaming in a structure that is consistent with core principles of federal Indian policy. Any bifurcation of the federal regulatory oversight responsibilities between the NIGC and another federal agency would be imprudent. Under current law, the respective roles of the NIGC and tribal governments are clearly established and defined. Communication systems are in place, administrative processes and enforcement mechanisms are established, and basically, this is a system that works. Assigning the administration of a statute or statutory provisions peculiar to tribal gaming to multiple federal agencies will inevitably create a host of problems and uncertainties. It would also increase the potential for interagency conflict and subject tribal governments to oversight by federal agency personnel inexperienced not only in relation to Indian affairs, Indian law and policy, and the federal Indian relationship, but in the regulation of gaming. The NIGC has nearly 2 decades of gaming regulatory experience, and its members and staff understand the unique constitutional status of Indian tribes as sovereigns, as well as the special political relationship between tribal governments and the United States. No other federal agency possesses comparable experience or expertise in the context of tribal gaming. Unquestionably, the NIGC is the ideal federal agency candidate to administer any tribal internet gaming legislation. It is the only federal agency that possesses the regulatory infrastructure to quickly and efficiently assume a gaming regulatory oversight role in relation to tribal internet gaming. Practically speaking, it takes years, sometimes decades, to establish a functioning federal agency. A new agency must assemble a competent staff, promulgate rules and regulations, meet all regulatory requirements applicable to every federal agency, and commence operation. For example, it took nearly 5 years following the enactment of NIGA for the NIGC to actually commence operations. A similar delay in staffing a new agency and gearing up that agency to begin regulating tribal internet gaming could prove economically disastrous for tribal governments that are intended to benefit by such law. The NIGC would not be hindered by a long startup time or the kinds of delays involved in the formation of new agencies. Finally, and I see that my time is up, if I might just add, a key difference between the NIGC and other federal agencies is the NIGC's status as an independent regulatory agency of the United States. This cloaks the NIGC with the necessary independence and flexibility to carry out its federal oversight functions in a stable and consistent manner, not subject to abrupt shifts in leadership, policy, resources, and organization. Thank you very much. Thank you for your patience.